Today we're going to do the holiday greeting card from the November-December 2013 Photoshop Elements magazine. For those of you who have a subscription to this magazine, you can go ahead and download the files. I went ahead and logged into my account. I went under magazine. I went to the November-December 2013 issue. I went to extras. I went to 'Tis the Season images. And it says download this file. So I went ahead and downloaded this file and I went ahead and extracted it. It also tells you in the directions to make sure that you add in the photo that you want as your holiday greeting card photo. So I went ahead and took the one from my Alaska vacation and I added it into this folder. I then went ahead and I held down the shift key and then I right clicked and I said open with, and I opened everything in Photoshop Elements 12. So here are all the items for here's the photo that came with the magazine. I'm not going to use that one. I'm going to use my own. Here's the elves, another elf, wallpaper, and here's my Alaska photo. In my Alaska photo, I went ahead and made all of the adjustments that I needed to make to this photo before I imported into my holiday card. The directions tell me that I am going to File, New, Blank File, and that I'm going to want to name my card Holiday Card. Just going to look at these. Default Photoshop size. No, we're going to put in our own. They tell us that we want to make our holiday card and that it's going to be 7 for the width, 5 for the height. It's going to be a resolution of 300, and our color mode is either bitmap, grayscale, or RGB. It also tells us that to go ahead and keep white as your background. And I'm going to say okay. I'm on step 5. It says place a background paper from your DigiKit into your blank layout. We're going to select File, Place. I'm going to go to my desktop. And it's telling me that the paper that I'm looking for is this one, and I'm going to say Place. It tells me to hit the green check mark and then to use the Move tool, the second tool down in the first column. But if you select the letter V, it will switch you to the Move tool. And I'm just going to use my arrow keys, or I can just go ahead and just move that over. Should nudge into place. The other thing that it says to do is just stretch the paper so that it, oops, I'm going to do Command Z on that. That's not what I wanted, or I'm going to hit undo, or the don't commit. It's going to move that, stretch it. If I didn't want to stretch it, what I could do is I'm just going to do, hit the check mark, select the check mark, undo, and I'm just going to copy this layer by right-clicking and saying Duplicate Layer, or Control J. I have a new layer up at the top. I have my Move tool. I'm going to hold down my Shift key, and I'm just going to move this over. And it lines up fairly well. Let's take a look here. I think what I shall do, though, I'm not real happy with how this lines up, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to duplicate the top layer. I could have done Control J. I'm going to use my Move tool. I'm going to move it over. You can see that the coloration doesn't line up exactly. And so what I'm going to do is, I mean, I can do a couple things. I can leave it as it is because my photo is going to actually cover over the majority of this. And I can, so my photo is going to be in the center here, and it's going to take up quite a bit of the space on this. Or I could go ahead and flip it, this pattern, and flip it over so that the gradation, you see there's some gradation to it. If I was to flip it, I would go up to Image, Rotate, Flip Layer Horizontal. And notice it lines up a little bit better, the coloration. The little circles down the middle, they don't. So I'm just going to use my directional arrow keys, and I'm just going to kind of just bump it over a little bit just to kind of get it a little bit in line. It's not going to be perfect. I do Command plus, 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 hold down my space bar. You can see my circles don't line up exactly, so I'm just going to have to say close enough if I look at the pattern. So you kind of have to, it's one of those judgment calls. You have to decide which that you like. I'm going to double click on the hand. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave it as is, but if I notice once I put my type down here that it doesn't turn out the way that I wanted, then all I have to do is, since I have its own layer, is just rotate the photo, the top image back, and go ahead and move over the pattern and see what I like. I could have just stretched the whole thing, but I didn't like how it looked when I stretched it. The next step is for me to place my photo of my family. So I'm going to grab that photo, and I'm going to say place. And I'm just going to go ahead and nudge that up a bit. And I'm going to go ahead and say, okay, I'm going to hit the check mark. I'm going to double click on the project bin to just collapse that. Guess I'm not able to do that. Let's see here. Oh, there we go. Okay. I also want to turn on my rulers. So I'm going to go under the View, Rulers, turn on my ruler guides. I'm going to say View, New Guide. I want a vertical guide at 3.5 inches since the width of my photo is 7. And my height is 5, so I'm going to go View, New Guide. I'm going to put in a horizontal guide at 2.5 inches. I'm going to say, okay. I'm going to grab my Move tool. Yep, smack in the middle. Just wanted to make sure. Okay, so what it's telling us to do next is we're going to go under the Windows menu, and I'm going to go to Effects, and I'm going to look for the one that says Styles tab is selected. And in my styles, I have all sorts of different options. I have bevels, complex. I'm going to look for drop shadow. I'm going to say cancel. I'm going to go back to my layers. I need to be on my Alaska is the reason why that wasn't working. I'm going to go back to effects. There we go. I like the soft edge. I'm going to go down here at the bottom. I'm going to click on layers again. Up here I have my symbol that says FX in my layers panel, and it's on my Family Alaska picture. just going to go ahead and double click on that to open it up. I'm going to move it over to the side. I'm going to choose a different swatch color, so I'm going to set the color of the shadow. I'm going to move my color picker up here, and I'm just going to choose this dark blue. It's kind of subtle. It's not really going to make that much of a difference. I could choose a different color. I could choose a red. Choose a blue. I'm going to say okay. I can also bring out the distance a little bit more. And bring my opacity up a little bit. All right, I'm going to say okay. I'm going to click on my FX symbol one more time. And I'm going to put a stroke on my photograph. So I'm just going to click on stroke. And it puts a black stroke on it by default. Black is what's always set in the swatches. I'm going to double click on it. I'm just going to move this over to the side. And if I drag my mouse all the way up into the top left corner, or to the bottom right corner, I'm sorry, the bottom left corner or the top left corner, that will give me a pure white, pure red. So I'm just dragging my mouse into that corner. I'm going to say, okay. I'm going to expand my stroke just a tiny bit. So I'm going to say right about there. I chose a stroke. It's about 8 pixels. I could type in a number and say 10 if I wanted. I'm going to say okay. Now, if I don't like how that stroke appeared on my photograph, I could go back and double click on the FX. At any time, I can always take it off. So it's easy to turn it on or turn it off. I'm going to turn it off for just a minute. Say okay. I'm going to go up to where it says image. Let me try the edit. Interesting, it doesn't allow me to stroke. Okay, the reason why it doesn't allow me to stroke, I'm going to make my thumbnails large. I don't know if it's possible for you to see, but in this corner right here, when you place a photo, that photo comes in as a smart object. And I don't really want to have this photo as a smart object. There are some advantages, but if I want to make this image just be a flattened image, simplify layer. Notice the little symbol in the bottom right hand corner went away. Now if I go under image, I think it's under edit, I have the ability to stroke my selection. Now the disadvantage to stroking your image using the drop down menu is it is destructive, but one of the things I like about using the stroke inside of here is that I have the ability to control if my location of my stroke is inside, centered, or outside. I'm going to just set my width to 10 pixels again. I'm going to click on color. I'm going to drag my mouse up into the top left corner. I'm going to say okay. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to choose inside, and I don't see a preview, which is problematic, which I don't like. Generally you have a preview where you can see it, but I want it to be inside. I'm going to say okay. Now notice how crisp my corners are. They're 90 degrees, where when I was using the stroke on my in the effects panel, you only have the option for them to be rounded. Okay, the next step that we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're just going to add in a shape layer. It says select the layer that contains the background paper. I'm going to intentionally make a mistake. So I'm going to be on my top family picture, and I'm going to go ahead and draw my rectangle. Drawing my rectangle. And a couple of things, I don't have the color that I wanted, so I need to make sure that I choose a different color. I don't like white. I'm either going to go with this red from the boat or this red right here from the dot in the photograph. So to be able to change my color, right here in the options panel, it says set color for new layer. I'm going to click on that. And right here I have my color wheel, and it brings up my color picker. I'm going to drag this over to the side by clicking along the top edge right here. I'm going to first try this color right here, this red. And one of the things I'm not liking a lot about Photoshop Elements 12 is, and this is probably, I'm just going to have to get used to it and figure out how to use the software, but it doesn't give me it doesn't go ahead and give me a preview window. I'm going to say okay, and there's that nice kind of cranberry color, but unfortunately it's in the wrong spot. It's on top of my photo, and I need it to be one layer below. So I'm going to grab this layer, I'm going to hold down with my mouse, and I'm going to drag it till it goes between the Family Alaska and the other wallpaper, and you'll see I get a double line. I'm going to let go, and it moves it to the back. Now notice I also went over when I drew my rectangle. That's okay, it doesn't matter. It's only going to be as large as my output size, which is 7 by 5. I'm going to go ahead and turn off my guides. I'm going to go to View, and I'm going to say Guides, and that gets rid of my guides. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to go to my top layer, and I'm going to go ahead and go to File, Place, and I'm going to find one of my elves. I'm going to grab the first one, and I'm going to go ahead and say Place. Now this is a PNG file, and a PNG is a portable native graphic file, and notice it's a transparent background. These are beautiful images to work with. I'm just going to go ahead and scale this down by grabbing a corner handle. Notice that Constrain Proportions is on, it's checked mark, and I'm going to go ahead and click in the middle. Here, if I click in the graphic, I can move it over. I'm going to put this one right over here, I think. We'll see how this works out. I'm going to say, yep, right there. And I'm going to hit the check mark and say, okay. I'm going to go ahead and grab my other one. I'm going to do File. I'm going to say Place. And I'm going to go ahead and click Place. I'm going to grab a corner handle. And I'm going to move this over to the right-hand side. Now I'm not exactly certain where I'm going to put this, so I'm just going to play around with it. I'm going to scale it by holding down a corner handle. Notice it's a corner, not in the middle or in any of the middle handles. It's a corner handle. If I was to do a middle or the other ones, it will stretch it, and I don't want that, so I'm just going to do Undo. Say no. Let's go ahead and do File, Place again. Hold down my corner handle. Notice that my Constrained Portions is on. I'm just going to move this around. Now if I want to flip him, if I want him to rotate, I would go under Image, Rotate, and say Flip Layer Horizontal. And this way I can put him over here in the corner. And I'm going to hit the check mark and say, okay. So I just flipped him. I don't know exactly which way I'm going to have them. I might go ahead, I'm going to grab my move tool, which is the letter V. I'm going to click on this one. I'm going to grab this the rotation down at the middle, and I can rotate this one. I'll just rotate, see what I want to do with him. Hit the check mark. Say, yep. I'm not for sure yet what I'm going to do with him. I'm just going to get off the move tool. I'm going to click on my rectangular marquee, which is the letter M on your keyboard. I'm just going to let it ride for the time being until I decide what I want to do with the rest of the photo. Now it also says to go ahead and put in a drop shadow for both of these elves. If I wanted to put in a drop shadow, I'm on one of the elves layer. All I would have to do is go down to the effects, down in the layers panel, or I would go over to window and I would say effects. Drop shadow is up by default. So if I just double click on it, I'm going to use the low one, and I'm going to go back to my layers down at the bottom, click on my layers. If you hold down the Alt key, and you grab the little FX symbol and drag it up, it should go ahead and duplicate it to the next layer. I'm working on a Mac, but that should be the same convention for a PC. If you use the Alt key and you hold down that your Alt key and you just click on that FX key and drag it up. All right, I'm going to be on my top layer. So I'm going to look for font, and I found one out on the internet. So I'm going to go out to Firefox, and I typed in my URL 1001freefonts.com, and the very first one that came up was Grandma's Garden, and I thought it was cute. So I went ahead and downloaded it. Since I'm on a Mac recording this, I'm not going to show you how to install the fonts because most of you have a PC, but we'll do it in school. And I can look up here and I can look for Halloween. Let's see if they have Christmas. Yes, they have Christmas. And these are all just free fonts that you can download. Anyways, I went ahead and installed that, so I'm just going to go ahead and minimize this. Go back to my project. I'm going to grab my type tool, which is the letter T. And I'm going to go ahead and choose my Grandma's Garden from my font list. I'm going to make my color white, so I'm just going to click on the white. To get out of that, I'm just going to click in this gray area right here. And I'm going to start at 24 points. Just going to put my cursor into my project. Type Happy Holidays. Oops, made a mistake. And I'm going to say Happy Holidays from the Gibsons. I'm going to go ahead and hit the check mark. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to take that and move it right here. And I'm going to take this guy over here and I'm going to bring him down a little bit. I'm going to grab a corner handle. And I think I'm going to rotate him as well. I'm going to just go out to a corner handle, and I get the double curved arrows, and I'm just going to slightly rotate that a little bit. And then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to hit check mark, come over to this one, take this, I'm going to make this a little bit smaller, move this over here. I'm going to say apply. I'm going to go back to my type tool. I'm going to nudge with my arrow keys. Go to my type tool. And I'm going to try putting on some Create Warp. I'm just going to look at it, see if there's anything that I really like there. And I can take my warp down a tiny bit. I kind of like that a little bit, just a slight, just give it a little bit of a slight nudge there. I don't like that, so I'm just going to take that back to 0. But that's good enough. I like that. Kind of a little bit of a, to say, okay. I'm going to go to my effects. I'm going to try something different. I'm going to try glass buttons. Oh, I kind of like that green. Oh, I certainly like that. Just going to try them all. I'm going to go back to this green. Let's look at this other green here. Go to that green. And then I'm going to go back to my layers. I'm going to double click on my FX on my Happy Holidays. And so let's take a look. Try to figure out what they've added to this. I'm going to put on a drop shadow. And I don't want my drop shadow to be black, I don't think. I'm going to double click on this. I'm going to try white. Let's try gray. I'm going to say okay. I'm going to move the distance out just a tad. Make my size a little bit bigger. Nope, I want a little bit smaller. Let's take a look at my size on my inner glow. Nope, I don't want it to be, yeah, I like that better. I brought that down a bit. Let's take a look at my bevel. Let's turn the direction down, see what happens there. I think I like it up. What if I make the size? Nope, I think I want to go down with the size. I think I'm going to leave that alone. Let's see what other, I'm going to click on the stroke. And I think I'm going to go white. I'm going to say okay. I'm going to take this down to 1 and just take a look at it. No, I don't think I like that. So I'm going to just click off the check mark here and say, nah, I'm going to leave this and say, okay. All right, so now I have my Happy Holidays from the Gibsons. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on my effects again. I'm going to come up here and I'm going to look at, let's do visibility. Let's see what that is. I've never done that before. Well, I don't think that did anything. Let's go to, I already did drop shadow once. I think I'm just going back to my layers. Okay. I think I have it how I want it. Okay, so the last thing that we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and save my file. And I'm going to go up to the File menu. I'm going to do Save As. It's going to go right back into the folder that I was working in, which is called "'Tis the Season." And I'm going to leave it as holiday card and then the .psd file. I want all layers. I'm going to go ahead and do Save. Then I'm going to do a save again. I'm going to do File, Save As. And this time I'm going to choose JPEG. And it says include in the elements organizer. You can if you want. I'm not going to. I'm going to go ahead and do save. It's going to save right into the same file. I want the quality to be high. I'm going to say OK.